So we're going to talk about Chapter 9. Chapter 9 is about objects and classes in Java. So we said this is starting point of object-oriented programming. So what's object-oriented programming? We look at things that in the world, they are objects. And if we want to write an application to represent something in the world, we have to create a class to map to that object. So an object should have the data fields, and data fields are, like for example, I want to create a class to represent a circle. The data field of the circle should be the radius, and the object should have the methods. The method of the circle, like I want to get the area of the circle, I want to get the perimeter of the circle, right? So those are the methods. So again, object has data fields and the methods, and object represent the objects, which represent an object in the world. Like a circle is an object in the world, right? This is called a class template here, that when you're creating it, comparing to when you first use scanner. Scanner is a class, but when you use it, you have to instantiating it, right? So for example, when you use scanner, you're gonna say like scanner, you're referring to scanner class template. Scanner is a class template. And you say an object, this is an object named keyboard, equals to new scanner. And when we talk about this second scanner here, this is a constructor. So a constructor pretty much a method that initializes the values to your object. Like in this case, the keyboard will read from the a scanner object named keyboard will read from the system.in, which is the keyboard input. Alright, so that's when you instantiate an object to use. Now let's look at in the term of circle. Like now, I can just say circle. I can have small circle as my object 1, like that. Equals new circle. Like this circle, again, this is a constructor which I need to provide a radius. Like the radius here is going to initialize to the data fields that this is a small circle with radius 10 when I use them. But I need to create a class as a template like that to represent the object circle, which I don't have one yet. Like scanner, we already have that, because before you use scanner, we have to do import java.util.scanner. You pretty much create a class named scanner and import to use here. But we don't have to create that class because it's being created when you download Java or JDK. So we just import to use. But some of the classes, we will never have them in Java JDK. We need to create our own class. In the case of creating our own class, I'll show you once I'm showing you how this circle being created for the second object here. So I'm going to say the same circle, middle circle, new circle with a new radius, which is 25. So I just create a second object named middle circle out of the circle class template. So same thing, if I do the circle for large circle with a radius 125, so I'm creating the third object named large circle with the radius 125. So that's how you use this is called objects, right? Small circle, middle circle, large circle, and create them from a class template named circle. Now let's look at how would a class named circle look like. So first, what is class? Classes are constructs that define objects of the same type. Right, so these are the objects with the same type: small circle, middle circle, large circle, right? That creating from class circle, and we call this as instantiation. Mean an action to create an instance. These are instances or objects from the circle class. So Java class uses, we use variables to define data fields and methods to define behaviors. A class provides a special type of methods known as constructors. This is a constructor which are invoked to construct objects from the class. So when you want to construct an object named small circle, you have to invoke with a new keyword that invoke the constructors and give the size of the registers to the constructors. So this is called constructor. Let's look at how we create a class named circle. Like I said, scanner is one that already created for you from Java library JDK. But circle is not in there. You need to create one on your own. This is how you create a class named circle. You say define class circle and then start to add the attributes. Remember, attribute are the data fields that I said, which is the radius. And we said we use the variables to define the data fields, which is double radius. And we pretty much just initialize to 1.0. Okay. So there are two constructors. How do you know that there are two constructors? Constructor, again, is like a method without the type. Normally method get error, you have the type double return radius times pi, right? 3.14159. But constructor will not return, so no type, just like main with the void, no return. But we don't even put void for the constructors. And constructor is the method with the parentheses here that has the same name as your class name, like circle, same cap C. So that's why we know there are two constructors. Constructor requires no parameters. That's the first one, and that's the default constructor. That means if you want to create an object, I could call that constructor like circle, equals new circle. Now this object will have the radius equals to 1 instead of 10, 25, 125 because we have the default initialized radius to 1. So if we call the default constructor with no parameters, which is the default constructor. So the second constructor here, we pass the new radius in as the parameters to the constructor. So like for example, if small circle using new circle and pass the radius, this is the new radius. Instead of using the default constructor, radius is 1.0. It's going to change the radius from 1.0 to the new radius, which is 10, that being passed through the constructor here. So that's why this small circle object is referencing to a circle template with a new radius 10. And as well as the middle circle reference to the same circle template class with a new radius 25 and large circle reference to the circle class with the radius 125 through the constructor with the parameters new radius. Now, this gonna be its own objects when we're doing this. So we're looking at, let's look at the physical memory here. So for example, the first one, if I do circle, let me move this up. Talk about this first one. So this circle actually we're gonna have a memory portion, right? This is the box of memory that when you're creating it, let me make sure I draw it properly. So when we're creating this, we're actually pointing to a circle class template. As well as this guy, the second one, right? This guy. When creating this, it's also refer to the circle template with the radius 10, right? Create a new object. So it stores the reference to a new circle. Now this is the radius 10, but before is radius 1. Same as the other two guys, right? Like this guy is going to refer to the same circle. But this is the radius of 25. Lastly, so this is the reference, right? We store by reference. We refer to another circle. Alright, so circle. So this is stored as reference to a circle with radius 125. But if you do like int x equals to 5, so int x equals to 5, 5 actually stored by values right there. This is x. It's not stored the reference. So that's the difference. This is the primitive type int, but circle is the reference type, right, to the class circle. When it's come to the reference type, that means you have an access to the all the methods. Get area is going to take the radius. It owns radius like 10 times 10 or 25 times 25 for middle, and large 125 times 125. Or just circle is 1 times 1. It's going to take its own radius, but access to the get area method and return its proper size for its own get area.